Hey everyone, I'm Jacob Castro and welcome to another video here on Jacob's Aquarium. The long-awaited video, I should say, actually. I'm finally going to be setting up my ADA 75P, the one I've been talking about in a lot of my videos, and I'm so excited to get started. So this setup video, or setup videos I should say, for this new tank is going to be uploaded in episodes. And I'm doing that because the video is going to be quite long. Rather than upload the whole thing in like, a 2-hour, 1-hour video, which I found most people don't really like to sit through a video that long. I'm just going to instead upload these videos in episodes so that you guys can watch one video, and then when you have time you can watch the next episode and the next episode, and so on and so forth. I think that would just make things a little easier, and also it would give me the ability to do this whole tank in segments, and that's really another important reason why I'm uploading these setup videos in episodes, is because I can't actually set up this whole tank right now today, because I don't have everything that I need right now. But nonetheless, I wanted to get some videos out to you guys about this tank and the setup process and stuff like that, because I think you guys have waited long enough. Okay, so let's get started. So in this first episode, I wanted to talk about the things that I'll be using with this tank, and pretty much I have everything here except for the lights and the plants. The plants are at the nursery, which is pretty far from where I live, and the lights are also at the nursery, so I don't have those with me today. So I'll most likely have them tomorrow, and that's when I'll be filming the next episode in this series, and that should be the really most exciting episode, because that's when I'll actually be putting plants in this tank and pretty much starting it, filling it up with water and everything as well. So today what I'll be doing is just going over the products that I do have for the tank right now, and I'm going to be adding the substrate along with the substrate additives. I'm going to be mounting the Castro goosenecks over the tank in preparation for adding the lighting to the tank as well. And I'll also just be going over some things in general about the setup of this tank and my plan for it as well. Okay, so stay tuned, because there's a lot to come in this episode of the ADA 75P here on Jacob's Aquarium. Alright, so first and foremost, I'm going to be using CO2, and I'm so glad that I am, because CO2 definitely helps with the planet tank. It's really, like, in my opinion, if you can add CO2 to a planet tank, it's golden. You can't go wrong using CO2 in a planet aquarium. So I'm going to be using a 5-pound CO2 tank, and I will also be using an Aquatech CO2 regulator. This regulator has a lot of mixed opinions, emotions about it. Some people love it, some people hate it. I like Aquatech regulators. I've used one for over 5 years now on many different tanks that I've owned, and it's really nothing has happened to it. The only thing that was the solenoid went bad, and all I had to do was contact Aquatech, and I sent them the regulator. They send it back to me with a replaced solenoid for free. So that's pretty much the only thing that went bad. But as far as the things that people are talking about, like the regulator leaking or things like that, I've never experienced that before. So I trust the Aquatech name. Some people don't, some people hate this brand, but that's what I'll be using with for my CO2 system in my planet tank. So of course the regulator connects to the CO2 tank. How am I going to get the CO2 into the tank? I will be getting it into the tank using CO2 proof tubing, also from Aquatech. Now this brings me to something that I'd really like to discuss, because I get asked questions about this all the time on my YouTube channel. People ask me, can I use regular airline tubing for my CO2 system, or what type of tubing do I use for my CO2 system? And people want to know, because there's so many things out there on the internet that say you have to use a specific kind, and then people have questions like, well, why do I have to use a specific kind of tubing? So here's the answer to that question. With regular airline tubing, there are microscopic pores in the material that the tubing is made out of. And when you have pressurized CO2 going through that tubing, much more pressure than that tubing would experience if you were using it with, say, a regular standard aquarium air pump, that gas or oxygen, whatever is going through there at that pressure coming from a CO2 tank, we'll just say that, the CO2 is going to escape out of those microscopic pores. So even though it may seem like you're injecting CO2 in your Planet tank because you'll see CO2 coming out of your diffuser or your inline diffuser, however you're diffusing the CO2 in your Planet aquarium, CO2 is also leaking out of those tiny microscopic pores if you use regular airline tubing, and that's in return going into the room or wherever you have your Planet aquarium. That's not good, and that's actually, it's just a waste. You're going to be wasting your money on CO2 because you'll go through CO2 tanks far more quickly than you would if you use CO2 rated or CO2 proof tubing. So the difference with CO2 proof tubing is that the material the tubing is made out of is much thicker than your standard airline tubing, and that in return holds the gas in the tube as the gas goes through, and it can't escape because there's no microscopic pores because the tubing is made out of much thicker material. Okay, so when you are going to set up a CO2 system, make sure you use CO2 proof tubing. It's very important. All right, and next, as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, I will be using Castro goosenecks to mount my lights over this tank. And I chose to use Castro goosenecks because, you guessed it, I'll be using Castro LEDs over this tank as well. I've used Castro LEDs before over my previous Planet aquariums, and I was extremely satisfied. I've never been happier with a lighting system that I've used for my Planet tanks other than a Castro. I've used T5s, I used other LEDs from other companies like Marineland LEDs, but nothing really compared to a Castro fixture, and I just prefer Castro lights over everything else. Some people don't like Castros, again, just like I mentioned with the Aquatech regulator, but I do. I really like Castro lights, and I've never experienced a problem with them, and they work great over Planet tanks. So, you know, I'm not sure what all the fuss is about, why some people don't like them, but I personally know a lot of people that do like them, including myself. So I'll be using Castro A160 WE tuna suns over this new ADA 75P Planet aquarium, and I'll be mounting them over the aquarium with these Castro goosenecks. And next, let's talk about filtration. So obviously, there are many different ways you can filter a Planet tank. There are wet-dry filters that some people don't recommend because they introduce too much oxygen into the aquarium. Canister filters are far more highly recommended above any other filtration system for a Planet tank. There's so many different options out there, but you know, I spent a lot of money on the tank itself and the substrate and everything that I'll be talking about coming up in the video as well. I really did not want to spend another, you know, $150 if I were to get an ADA canister filter. $500–600. I did not want to spend that much on a filtration system. And you know, being that with a Planet aquarium, you don't really have to rely so heavily on filtration, because a Planet aquarium naturally is a natural filter. You know, the plants are a natural filter. They consume a lot of excess nutrients and bad things in the tank and turn them into good things for the aquarium inhabitants. So you really don't need to worry too much about having such, you know, massive flow or such amazing filtration. You just need a filter. That's my opinion. You just need a filter. I mean, unless you have a lot of fish, large fish in a Planet tank that are producing a lot of waste, which is going to really make your nutrients spike, then yeah, you would need something, you know, far larger and far more powerful as far as filtration goes. But typically in a Planet aquarium, people aren't putting, you know, tiger Oscars, arowanas. They're not really doing that. Mainly in a Planet aquarium, we use small fish because bigger fish like cichlids and arowanas, and well, arowana is in the cichlid family, but you get what I'm saying. Bigger fish tend to, I don't know, destroy a Planet tank. I've experienced that before, when I tried to house goldfish in a planted aquarium. Let's just say it didn't work out. So since, you know, most of the time we use small fish in our planted aquariums, I really believe that you don't need to rely so heavily on a massive filtration system, because the tank itself is a filter in itself, and the fish that you house in a planted tank are so small that the waste that they're producing is not so much and so overloading if you were to use just a standard, you know, hang on the back filter like I'm going to talk about right now. So I chose to use an Aqua Clear 30 hang on the back filter, or power filter as they're more commonly called, because I've used these in the past and I love the different options that you have with these filters. These filters have a really large compartment in the back that you can fill with biomedia or mechanical filtration or even chemical filtration, and I just think that the ability to change those things out and pretty much put whatever you like into this filter is a really great option. Because with some other power filters, you really only have the option for mechanical and chemical filtration. For example, the Whisper Tetra filters, those power filters, you really can only use mechanical and chemical filtration. Typically they don't recommend putting any type of biomedia in there because there's just no space, you know. But with an Aqua Clear filter, they're much larger. The compartment where all the filter media sits is much larger, so you can really customize your filtration a lot more than you would if you used any other type of filter. And if you look up reviews about this filter, a lot of people really like these. They've been in the industry for a very long time, and people have come to really know and love this filter. And it's a very popular choice among serious hobbyists because of the different ways that you can customize your filtration, because the way that this thing is built. So I'm using an Aqua Clear 30, and it's rated at 150 gallons per hour, which is plenty of flow for this tank. This tank is about 40 gallons, so plenty of flow for this tank, plenty of flow to keep things moving. There's plenty of space in this filter for biomedia and things like that. So this is a reasonable choice for this tank. I mean, like I said, I could have gone to the extreme and got a, you know, an ADA canister filter that costs like $600–700. I could have gotten something cheaper. That probably would have looked a little bit better on this tank, because, you know, it wouldn't be a hang on the back filter that's kind of, you know, you can always see it. But then again, guys, it's just a filter. You know, I didn't really see the need to spend a whole bunch of money on a canister filter. Like I keep saying, as I already have done with the tank and the substrate. The substrate alone was almost $300. All right, moving on. Now let's talk about the substrate. So before we talk about the substrate though, let's talk about the substrate additives. Here I'm holding ADA Bacter 100, and excuse me if I butcher this name. I'm also holding Tourmaline BC and also Clear Super. And these are great substrate additives that really add a kick to the ADA soil. And if you think about it, the ADA soil is already amazing soil, amazing aquarium substrate, planted aquarium substrate I should actually say, that already has a lot of good nutrients in it. But adding this stuff, man, you're golden once again. Plants will grow like crazy. So with these substrate additives, you pretty much just sprinkle them on the bottom of the tank, the bare tank, before you add the substrate, and then you add the substrate on top. Pretty simple, and it really adds an extra kick to the substrate, which will in return help grow the plants so good. I'm just imagining how well the plants are going to grow on this substrate, and let's just say I'm getting a little excited just thinking about it. Alright, and once I have the substrate in there, I'll be using Stability and Prime to get the tank going. I've used these products in the past and I've been fairly happy with the results I've gotten from both of these products. So I just decided to use these because, you know, once again, this is a planted tank. These planted tanks cycle so quickly because they're already natural filters, as I keep saying. So I just needed something simple to get the tank going, and that's why I chose these two products. Next is the substrate. This is ADA Amazonia Aqua, soil, nature, aquarium, you get it. This is the stuff that I talk about like all the time in my live streams, my videos. It's kind of heavy. I'm going to go ahead and put this down. You basically know. This is the substrate that I talk about all the time in my live streams, my videos. This is the one that I recommend to everybody that can afford it, that has the budget for it, because it is literally, guys, it is the best substrate you could ever use for a planted aquarium. And I should say that with all the products that I've talked about in this video, I'm not ranting and raving about them or saying good things about them because the companies have compensated me in any way. I'm saying them because I like these products and they've worked really well for me. Same goes for ADA soil. I've used it in the past and I have never in my planted tank adventure experienced better growth with any other substrate other than ADA soil. And now that I'm going to be adding the substrate additives to this new tank along with the ADA soil, I'm just even more excited to see how good the plants grow in this substrate, because before I pretty much, or the last time I used ADA soil, I pretty much just dumped it in the tank over fluorite substrate, which is not recommended, but you can do it, you know. And I was super impressed with the growth rate I was getting in my plants and the color and things like that. So now that I'm gonna be doing it the ADA way, you know, using substrate additives and putting the soil on top, I'm just really excited, guys. So I'm using ADA soil, Amazonia soil. It's not the powder type, it's just the regular standard type. For those of you that don't know, there is a powder type ADA Amazonia soil that you can actually sprinkle on top of the standard ADA soil, and pretty much it's not really required. It's more they say it's more on the cosmetic side, but then some people also say that the powder version, being that the granules are so much smaller, it helps hold everything in place. But then again, I've just used the regular version before. My plants have, you know, done perfectly fine without using the powder type. So it's not really recommended, and that's why I didn't get the powder type as well. I'm just going to be using the regular ADA soil, the standard granules. All right, so that's pretty much all the products that I have right now. So as you have probably seen, pretty much all I can do right now is put the substrate additives in and add the ADA soil, put the Castro goosenecks over the tank, and I can screw on my CO2 regulator. Or actually I can't, because the CO2 tank is empty. So there's not going to be too much happening in this first episode of the ADA 75P setup, but something will be happening. I'll be able to show you guys, you know, adding the substrate and things like that. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so the first substrate additive I'll be introducing is called Clear Super, and I'm just going to read from a paragraph I found on aquaforestaquarium.com. They're a retailer of ADA products out of San Francisco, and they talk a little bit about these different substrate additives. So I'll read right now what they say about Clear Super. So they say that Clear Super absorbs excess organic substances and promotes the appearance of nitrifying bacteria. Clear Super thus removes organic substances from within the aquarium and keeps the water crystal clear. And it says it's highly effective when added at the bottom of the substrate with Bacter 100. Which, speaking of Bacter 100, that's the next substrate additive I'll be introducing, and I'll read about this one as well. So it says, containing more than 100 different kinds of microorganisms in a dormant state, Bacter 100 improves conditions in the substrate and the aquarium water and then stabilizes the ecosystem within the aquarium. To be applied at the bottom of the substrate at setup or the aquarium water when necessary. Okay, so that's what it says about that one. The last substrate additive I'll be introducing is called Tourmaline BC, and I apologize once again if I butchered that name, but I will once again read about this substrate additive from Aquaforest Aquarium's website. So it says tourmaline is a mineral compound of iron, aluminum, sodium, boron, lithium, and magnesium, which are gradually dissolved, enriching water of important elements. Tourmaline BC is an electrostatic mineral that increases roots plant nutrition. In particular, Glossostigma elatinoids grows 50% more than its normal development with this product, I guess. So it seems like all these substrate additives are really great, powerful stuff, and I'm so excited to see the effect they have on the plants I'll be growing in this beautiful ADA 75P aquarium. Alright, and next, you guessed it, it's time to add the substrate, the famous ADA Aqua Soil Amazonia substrate in particular. So I wasn't sure how many bags of substrate I was going to need for this tank, so I bought 5. And I think that was a little too much. In this tank, you'll see I'm only going to use about 3 bags, and even still, that's a lot of substrate for this tank. I really didn't have to use that much. But you know what? I have other projects in the works and other things that I could really use ADA soil for anyways, so it's always nice to have an extra bag of this stuff laying around. So that was bag number 1. Here's bag number 2. And since I have the time to talk a little bit about this amazing substrate, because after I add the bags of substrate into the tank, you'll see me spreading it out and getting it all nice and you know, level, and of course having it high in the back and low in the front, typical of how you aquascape a planet aquarium. Since I have the time, I'm going to go ahead and read once again from Aquaforest Aquarium's website. They're a retailer of ADA products, and I'm going to read the paragraph that they have on the product page for ADA Aqua Soil, which by the way retails right now for $47.99, not including shipping. So that, or actually I apologize, that does include shipping, because it says $39.99 plus $8 shipping, so that actually does include shipping. But considering that I bought 5 bags of this stuff, yeah, it can get quite expensive. So if you're doing a large planet tank and you plan on using ADA soil, you better have the budget for it. Anyways, let's go ahead and read a little bit about what aquaforestaquarium.com says about ADA soil. So on their website it says that designed to reproduce the image of the Amazon, create an aquascape depicting the fertile South American rainforest with the dynamic alteration of rainy and dry seasons, normal and powder type available. Okay, wait a minute, it's maybe this isn't going to go so well. I'm not sure who typed up these paragraphs on their website, but they are not the easiest to read because they're not really put together that well. But I'll just skim through it and basically tell you guys what this stuff is made out of and things like that. So it basically says that this product helps bring the pH level of the water down to an ideal level that's good for most aquarium plants. Definitely I believe that, because I remember testing my pH when I had this stuff in my 50-gallon tank, and it was rather low. It was around 5.5 to 6.5, which is a great pH for aquatic plants. Which, by the way, I hope you guys like my little ghetto substrate, you know, spreader outer tool piece of cardboard that I'm using. More fancy people will use a ruler or something, but no, I just go straight for the cardboard. Yeah, so you know, this substrate does help bring the water down to a very good pH for plants. But of course, you know, even though this substrate helps with the pH, a pH in an aquarium can fluctuate due to many different things. So I'm not sure if that pH will be a stable 5.5 to 6.5. I'll just have to see. Maybe it will, you know, but my guess is that it won't. So I'll most likely eventually have to end up adjusting the pH myself with the use of, you know, popular aquarium products like pH Down or pH Up, made by API or Aquarium Pharmaceuticals. So yeah, we'll have to see about that. But you know, nonetheless, ADA soil is world renowned. You know, people know that this stuff is a great substrate, and it's been used in a lot of aquariums that that Takashi Amano himself obviously has created, and I'm sure we've all seen his videos on his YouTube channel and how amazing his tanks look. So I mean, the proof is in the videos. You can't go wrong with ADA soil. So I'm super excited to you know, watch my plants grow in this stuff. I already know they're gonna just explode with growth in this soil, so I'm really excited for that. But yeah, it's really great soil, and as you can see, what I've just done is I've just leveled out the substrate, made it higher in the back and lower in the front, which is like I mentioned earlier, which is typically what you want to do to create, you know, depth in a planted aquarium. So you know, this also depends on what type of, you know, hardscape you're going to be adding, if you're going to be adding rocks or stuff, but I'm not going to. So since it's just going to be plants, this is how I escaped it. All right, and next it's time to assemble the Kessel goosenecks, and I thought I would just speed right on through this assembly of the Kessel goosenecks because it's pretty straightforward. If you ever order one of these things and you have to assemble it, it's really not that difficult. You basically just put in those screws, screw the gooseneck into the mount, and you're pretty much done, you know. When I was installing it on the tank though, I was really scared because I just wanted to be very careful that I didn't scratch this tank. It's such a beautiful tank, and being that I'm mounting this thing on it, I was so nervous about possibly scratching it, but I didn't. Everything went perfectly well. The mounts are very strong. These goosenecks are just great. I think they're so versatile. They're so strong. They can hold a good amount of weight on the end of at the end of the mount as well, the gooseneck itself. So I'm very confident that these things will last a long time. And of course, now I got to bend them into position because they can't be pointed at the ceiling. That would be weird. And there you go. They're bent into position, and now all I got to do is install the lights. And you know, like I said, they're very versatile. So if this, how I have them now, would have the lights too close to the water, I can always bend them up a little bit more so that they're higher. And yeah, like I said, very versatile. Now let's assemble the filter, the AquaClear 30 power filter. Once again, I thought I would just speed through this because it's pretty straightforward. You really don't, nothing needs to be explained here. Although you will see I struggled a little bit right here trying to put the biomedia in the bio bag. It was quite frustrating, and I'm glad I sped up the video because it took me a while to get all that stuff in there out of that bag. So we got the filter assembled. Now let's put it on the tank. Beautiful. Look at how it just fits so perfect and snugly, whatever you want to call it, right in between the Kessel gooseneck and the edge of the tank. I think it just looks perfect right there, and it's not going to be in the way too much. It won't take away from the aesthetic of this beautiful planted tank. And it's, you know, plenty of filtration for this tank. You really don't need that much more. And I also wanted to say, you guys may have noticed also throughout the video that the tank looks a little wobbly, you know, as I've been doing stuff with it. And yes, the stand is not finished, so I will be adding some more supports, and it won't be wobbly after I add those more supports. So yeah, just wanted to say that. So there you go. That's pretty much it. Everything's done. Filters on, substrates in, substrate additives are in, goosenecks are on. We're pretty much ready to get this thing up and running and get some water in this thing and get some plants in this thing. Guys, I'm so excited. I can't wait to get this thing up and running. You guys are just gonna love seeing the progress of this tank because I know the plants are just gonna go crazy with all the fancy stuff I'm using with it. All right, so that pretty much does it for this episode of the ADA 75P setup. Stay tuned because episode number 2 is coming very soon. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to check me out on Facebook. All my social media links are in the description below. I also have an Instagram and a Twitter in case you're interested in those as well. And most importantly, if you are interested in aquarium plants, visit jacobsaquarium.com where I have a ton of plants to choose from, all at very reasonable prices. Thanks again for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. Have fun with your tanks, and I will see you next time.